meet of heroes, legends old. In his stories their glories unfold. Baz the Bard with strings of gold. His heart cries out the tales he's told.
Hi everybody, it's the Meta Report. It's PQY week 4 and it's Scott Mines time. How's it going, Scott?
Scott Mines time is a dangerous term. Gotta be careful with that one. That can mean any number of things. It's going all right. Thanks, Baz. Life is incredibly hectic, but we're slowly getting better at handling that. I have to imagine you're in a similar boat.
I am indeed, yeah. It is moving time. I am going to say right now, this is the last Pro Quest Yokohama event I will be covering. I'm moving on Tuesday, unpacking during the week, so I won't be covering week 5. Maybe I could put it together for week 6, but it's going to be massively stressful. The stress has been taken out by sort of like putting it on later, but generally it's kind of like I just don't think I'm going to be able to squeeze everything in sort of like helping the kids settle, my wife, my mum. It's a massive undertaking that's going on. But saying this week, my wife has hit the national news. She's been on BBC News website. She's been on BBC News. She's been spoken about on This Morning. The Sun has done her article. The Daily Mail. She's been on Lad Bible. So you may have seen her because my wife was walking through town with our dog, and an enforcement officer came up to her and just went, "Have you got a poo bag?" To which she said, "No, I don't have a poo bag on me at this time." So she got a £100 fine. Now, the dog hadn't even done a poo. It was literally, "You've been fined because you don't have a poo bag." So this has gone kind of national. If you're in the States, good morning is kind of like good morning America, I suppose. But
well, that is both literally and metaphorically a bit shit. Not an awful lot I can say about that otherwise. That's man, what a world we live in. The
thing is, we know when Willow's going to go, right? And sort of like, she ain't going to go in town because it's all concrete. So there's no way in hell she was going to go to the toilet. And we've even taken our dog to Birmingham and walked around the town, and she will not go. You have to go, into a sort of like a park or grass, and then. So it's sort of like, it's just like, I can't believe this has happened. I'm
all for cracking down on that kind of stuff, but I don't think that's necessarily the best way to go about that. Feels a bit brash to be approaching people and being like, "Do you, Mr. or Mrs., have a poo bag?" Doesn't seem like the best solution to that problem. But hey, what do I know? I just work here.
Yeah, smash £100 straight away, bang, go pay it.
Bloody hell.
Great, but. That's that. That's the life of Baz the Bard. Let's crack on and
Incredible
see.
Stuff.
I know, everybody's jealous of my life, I can tell. So let's get cracking with the games. Let's start off with the event that you were at, Mr. Mines. Gaming.
Oh, yes, I was. You're right.
Yes, Gaming, 20 players. How was it?
Really good, actually. I think 24 LL is a pretty darn good turnout, truthfully. I wasn't sure what to expect heading into the day, but this was mostly the room I expected, given I knew we had a couple of Aurora enjoyers in the car alongside me, mostly Liam Holden, of course, who's very guilty of that. But George Jones also on Aurora for this event, and so I knew that ahead of time. Was the only real surprise in this room was the dose of and the Azalea, of course, which is not a deck that I think many people associate with Living Legend. I do think there's some potential there, actually. I think the Rangers in general, both Azalea and even Marlin to some extent, have some play in Living Legends. So I was happy to see Azalea coming out and hanging out. Otherwise, a lot of what you expected. To be clear for folks, this was pre-ban list. Obviously, we've just had a new ban list drop for this week's LLPQs that has taken away Deadwood Dirge and restricted Deadwood Dirge and taken away Rosetta Thorn.
Yep.
And that is why you see so much Chain in this room, is because it was unquestionably the best deck on the day.
Yeah, nine rune blades is a scary prospect for most people to enter a tournament at, especially this size. We'll talk about the bands.
10 even, I should say. The Viscera at the bottom as well, so half the room was rune blades here. Was pretty telling. So.
We'll get onto the bands later when we cover LL anyway. But how did your day go?
Reasonably well, made top 8. I was playing Dash.io for clarity. Was going to be Icelander or Dash for me. I wasn't going to switch to Runeblade. I was just going to play something I knew and enjoyed, because I wasn't much focusing on qualifying by playing Living Legend. It was more about studying for Worlds than anything else. Blasted some people for 80 plus damage, as Dash tends to do. She's a bit egregious like that. Yeah. My round 1 game took 2 turns, and there was 37 minutes on the clock when we finished. So that should tell you everything you need to know about how that one goes sometimes. But I did, unfortunately, for better or worse, lose in the top 8 to Seb on Briar. Yeah. Who in the Swiss decided to absolutely kick my head in the Swiss to give me my loss there, and then played a much closer and more interesting game in the top 8, but unfortunately did get my number when it mattered. So no overcrowded for me, and I'll have to try and go and grab another one down in Worcester next week.
Nice, so you're going to toys and games.
I am indeed, yeah.
Righty, let's see who made the top 4, though. So we have Rob Catton on Chain, 2 World's top 8 finishes, calling Liverpool battle-hardened event winner, 8 skirmishes, 4 Pro Quest and an RTN to his name. Very good record for Rob. Liam Canning, the smartest trousers in all of Fab. He's got 2 Pro Quests and an RTN. We've got David West on Chain, and Seb Ball, as you said, making it into the top 4 with winning against you, and he's got 4 skirmishes and RTN, and he's on Briar. Now, I'm quite surprised he's on Briar, because he is Viscerai whenever I think of Seb. So, just shows how powerful, Briar is ahead of, Viscerai, in the realms of a Runeblade player.
At least where she was. I think losing Rosetta Thorn is probably biggest for Briar more than it is any of the other Runeblades, but I digress. Was surprised to see Seb not on Viscerai too, as I said to his face on the day. Unsurprisingly, I do know how this one went and how it shook out. Liam Canning will tell you all about his unfortunate woes at the hands of Rob Catton, if you ask nicely. He was not best pleased at the end of this game, but it was Rob Catton making the way through Starvo. Shout out to Liam, by the way. He's currently putting up some YouTube content as well from the PQs he's been at. He's been recording a chunk of games. Cool. If you like watching high quality games in the UK, you should probably go and check that out. On the other side of things, David did not avenge me against Seb and foolishly let him continue on into the finals, which wouldn't be what I would do in that spot. But hey, I can't judge because I fell short to Seb earlier on in the event. But thankfully for everybody, Seb was quickly dispatched by Rob in the finals here, as far as I'm aware. And so Rob did take this one down on Chain, bound by Shadow.
Let's confirm that he did indeed. So he's got his ticket to Pro Quest Yokohama, just as Lila did in Manchester a couple of weeks ago. So the husband and wife's power couple of UK Fab are off to Pro Quest Yokohama. It makes
rationalising the trip to Japan a lot easier when you're both qualified. It's suddenly in budget, which is very helpful.
Indeed. Righty, let's look at the Living Legend standings by all the global results for week 4. So they very kindly put it into percentages and wins. So Chain, you said he was powerful, but as you alluded to earlier, sorry everybody, he has lost 2 of his most powerful cards. So restricted is Deadwood Dirge. Only 1 card can be allowed into that deck now, and Rosetta Thorn, which I'm quite happy I never have to see that weapon again.
I don't know. My opinions on this are mixed. Obviously, heading into Worlds, the whole situation with having to have a ban list this close is less than ideal.
Absolutely.
Although I do appreciate the humility from the LSS team in that announcement. They are very vocal. They know they have fucked this up, to be blunt about it. So I appreciate that, at least, as much as this kind of sucks. I think, personally, I don't think Rosetta Thorn was the correct take. I am a big Blood Chief Skeleta hater. I've made that pretty vocal in the past. I don't actually think Rosetta Thorn changes all that much in this equation for these Runeblade players. It just feels like a bit of a plaster on a wound, and LSS have admitted as much. I just think, given the card has a Marvel and a gold foil, it probably wasn't the best one to try and take away. With that said, I do still think Chain is a very good deck. I still expect it to turn up in pretty big numbers at the World Championship, regardless of losing Deadwood Dirge. It might be that more traditional version. It might still be Runegate. I'm not sure. I still think these Rune Blades are very strong in the format as well, but a few cool ones here. This Dromai, I'm not putting too much weight into. From what I understand, this was a 9-person PQ, where the Dromai player received a bye in round 1 and therefore made top 8. Did not win any other games until the top 8, but managed to take it down anyway, which is very impressive stuff. You love to see that occasionally. And the Pleiades, I mean, this is very cool. It was a slightly bigger event from what I understand, but talk a big game. Pretty good in Living Legend, would you believe? So you can stick a 20 power attack over, make 20 odd might tokens, and that is pretty good. So a little surprising to see it. Still happy to see it. Hopefully we'll see a little more of it as we get closer to Worlds.
Is that why they preemptively banned that card? Maybe they,
yes,
didn't want to see
it was
this.
not okay. Having played with Talk a Big Game, it was more of a problem in Lyeth, who obviously gets 5 cards in his hand every time in LL, and especially in CC. But we stress tested that a bit before the ban announcement came out, and let me tell you, it was not okay. It was not okay in any way whatsoever. So happy that card is not in CC. And I do think that's a good call out, actually. I think there's a lot of cards that were not okay in CC that people are just not willing to experiment with in Living Legend right now because of this Rune Blade like stigma and aura that we have right now that are, worth checking out. Plume of Evergrowth, for example, a card that obviously got banned recently because of Light Up the Leaves. So you still get to do that in Living Legend. So maybe there's something that Tome of Fiendel is really good in Verdance. If you're going off with Rampant Growth, it gains you a chunk of life coming out of your arsenal there as well. So I just think there's a lot of things in the format that people aren't exploring, and looking at things that were too good for CC, like Talk a Big Game or Plume of Evergrowth, these kind of cards, is a good place to start in figuring those things out.
Yeah, I would say LSS, it might not be the greatest timing, and it might be a plaster over, what is LL, but LSS have never been afraid to actually just go, we need to make a change. So you have to actually doff your cap, just go, thank you. You've realised there's a mistake and you are trying to fix it. The timing is shocking. Because people have put so much time, making their decks. We're like 2 weeks away from sort of like the biggest tournament of the year. They've made such a big effort to push LL into this format, and it is going to be a massive sort of like reason to go into Worlds.
Yeah.
But you feel sorry for the amount of people that have tested so hard.
Well, it's even worse if you're a Kano player in CC, because you might not have your hero be legal in Classic Constructed either, because of the way that the Pro Quest season has broken down. You might reach Living Legend before you get there. Yeah. I don't know. I think everyone knows I'm likely to toe the company line a bit, because obviously I am a vocal face on camera, but I've been pretty upfront about this situation. I think and LSS, I think, appreciate that as well, that they are a company that appreciate valid feedback when it's presented in a way that isn't aggressive. But I do think the company's been making a few too many mistakes as of late, especially in the communications department and management department, I guess. And I'm hopeful that feedback has been received well. I hope they are, the tail between the legs, the sign of a change in mentality and not something we should be expecting going forward. But this sucks. I won't deny for a second, this entire scenario really sucks for people that have worked for their World Championship, and having your decks adjusted and changed last minute is not an ideal scenario. And to me, that just says that LSS firmly believe that the event would have been worse if they hadn't, which should tell you how they felt about Living Legend prior to this change. Because for them to believe that the event would be worse than changing it 2 weeks before the event, that's got to be pretty bad, at least in my opinion.
Maybe they, the original LL event that they had at Barcelona 2023, that was top 8 Starvo. That was not a good look for a Living Legend format. It's the first time it was ever run. And it's like, maybe they could see the writing on the wall and just go, potentially, we could have a top 8 of all the same hero. And it's just like, we need to do something before we actually get to that stage again and make it look like we've had no progression in 2 years. We've literally just changed the face of the hero, of this format. But
I agree that wouldn't have been the best look. I agree that wouldn't have been the best look. I don't think it was so much that, from my understanding. I think there was a few other factors at play here. at least in the case of Starvo, it felt like you were playing traditional games of Flesh and Blood. Sure, sometimes one person fuses more than the other, and things happen. But you are playing a game of Flesh and Blood, throwing attacks and blocking and doing this, that, and the other. Sometimes with the way that LL felt right now, especially with the way Chain was with Runegate Chain, you would, they would block with 4 cards and still send 24 damage at you, which is not traditional Flesh and Blood. And I think if we had seen a top 8 of all Chain and it had been all that on camera, as opposed to back and forth 40-minute Guardian grindfest that were at least a little bit enjoyable to watch, it would have been even worse than Barcelona. And I think it was more important to not avoid a repeat of Barcelona, but it was definitely important to avoid something worse than Barcelona. And I think that's what we were possibly heading towards. So I do still think Runeblades are going to dominate this event. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm really hoping I'm wrong. But at least, hopefully now the games are a little more engaging and interesting for both players and audience at home, as opposed to just crapshoot blowouts, which is something I really don't want to see on camera all weekend. So
yeah, fair enough. Right, so let's wrap up Living Legend there. Let's look at CC, because this is the bread and butter of Flesh and Blood, isn't it? This is what we're all playing. So Mindstage Gothenburg, 29 players. So a good turnout. 7 Syndra, so she's still sort of like, the most popular pick. But Florian is not going away. As much as sort of like, Scott, you are not a fan of Florian. You've made that quite clear. But there are a lot of Florian players and they are still coming out in force.
Yeah, I mean, again, maybe someone knows something I don't. That's the beauty of a card game. It's the beauty of approaching a world championship where people are working on things in private and not necessarily sharing those details. There might be a lot of unknowns here. And seeing this is exciting for me because I still think Florian is crap. Nothing has changed in that capacity. And so this tells me that maybe someone knows something I don't. And that's an exciting prospect heading into the biggest event of the year. That being said, 3 copies of RKO, which I do think is a pretty good choice in a normal room, because there's next to no Florian in a normal room, and unfortunately that matchup is pretty awful for RKO. So you got to feel bad for the 3 players here who have made what I think is a pretty good meta pick into a room that is actually surprisingly hostile for the meta pick they've made. 7 Syndra makes a lot of sense. I'm noticing another lack of gravy here. It feels like a lot of the gravy players have either stepped away from the deck in the wake of how much Syndra we're seeing, or they are already qualified and no longer interested in playing the deck one way or the other. Otherwise, good mix here. 3 verdants, about what we expected. Happy to see decks like Marlin, Jarl, Puffin, Arachne Marionette, even Dash.io. These are decks that all kind of have reasons and rationales in the current CC format, depending on what you're trying to target. So happy to see people bringing them in some capacity.
Okie dokie. Let's see who actually made it into the top 4. So we have Peter Brass on Florian. He's got a Pro Quest. Maximilian Malander on Prism. Tov Hansen on Marlin. And Jacob Nielsen on Dash.io. And he has 2 skirmishes and a Pro Quest. So a Marlin in the top 4. This is potentially the first time that we've covered a Marlin making it in. So well done, Tov, for that. Brilliant work.
I do think people are getting better at the deck. I think we alluded to it a few times last week, much like Puffin. It just took time for people to figure out the actual correct numbers and rationales, and this format is slowly becoming a little more intriguing for a deck like Marlin. I'm not sure she's entirely there in CC just yet, but the potential is there, and that's good to see from a hero I think a lot of people wrote off out of the gate. Interesting matchups here for sure. I believe the common consensus is that Florian is quite hard for Prism, but I think it does depend on the card choices by both players and how they choose to attack these matchups. Typically, Florian, if they have a high density of cards like Summer's Fall, especially if they have access to Channel the Tranquil Domain, it's pretty easy to roll Prism under your foot and give her a swift step. But I think a lot of people have been cutting back on those cards because they're not super applicable against most of the other decks in the format. So it's very possible this sways back the other way if Peter is entirely off of the Prism tech. I will take Peter in the dark, though, and I will be slightly surprised if they do lose this, but I think it's possible. I've definitely lost the Prism on Florian before myself. On the other side of things, Marlin I have way less of a frame of reference on. It feels that the deck does block quite well, but it does also need quite a high density of cards to do a meaningful thing. In exchange for that, you do get some pretty impactful on hits and go fish abilities if you're able to chain those cards together, which should be good into a hero like Dash.io. The problem with that, of course, is that you misstep and try and keep a hand one too many times, you eat a boom grenade. It's a little bit awkward. So I think I'm going to take Marlin without having played the matchup very much in the hands of Tov, but I would love to know more about how this matchup actually went if you guys are watching along. So.
Okie dokie. So we go in Florian and Marlin.
That's where we're going.
So you'd have thought you'd have gone Marlin into a final, but let's see. You were bang on, mate. Well done. So Peter Brass on Florian, Tov Hansen on Marlin, and an all-Norwegian final in Sweden.
That's very cool. Very cool to see that. This matchup's very intriguing to me. Hilariously, I've spent more time studying Marlin recently than I have Florian because that's how bad I think this deck is. So congratulations to Peter for continuing on. I'm glad to see you're still finding success. Clearly, you might have cracked a nut in some capacity. This matchup, though, I have to imagine this is the kind of matchup that Marlin is trying to prey on. But defense reactions are a real backbreaker against a deck like Marlin, and Florian is not exactly shy on those. So my best guess here, unfortunately, is that Peter took this down on Florian, and no offense to Peter, I'll be pretty damn happy if he didn't.
Mate, Peter did. Well done, Peter. Fantastic work. So yeah, showing Florian has still got what it takes if you know what you're doing. So Peter, give Scott some tips.
I don't know. Peter, I appreciate it, but I might just pass on those tips anyway. I think I'm okay with where I'm at.
Let's see the gold foil opening though. Here we go.
Da blir turen min. Jeg tror jeg nesten hadde bare blå igjen.
I see a loan shark in play from Marlin there. I hope that wasn't the thing that actually got them killed at the end of that game. Would be slightly embarrassing. Come on, Peter, you know how to open a gold foil.
Så jeg trodde det skulle være mye lettere, men matchupen var ganske vanskelig på. Ja, det blir jo det nå.
There we go.
Okay, Centauri Saber is a pretty good one. You can't really argue with that. Pretty universally playable weapon in numerous formats, in numerous heroes. So yeah, I would be pretty happy with a Saber. The only downside is you're now contractually obligated to buy the opposite direction one so that they match. So enjoy spending a couple £100 doing that.
That's if he wants to play with it, but I'll be quite happy with that. I'll be over the moon as a Kasai player. I'll be like, yes, thank you very much. Let's get in back to the UK. We are on the south coast. We're at Dice Saloon in Brighton. Quite a small event, 17 players. So it's a bit weird. Like the amount of participation of players is sort of like is dwindling as people are winning events, and are they willing to sort of like to travel, and especially sort of like go into this meta that people are expecting, sort of like Syndra, Verdance, Gravy, but no Syndra. Oh my god, an event to go to.
Yeah, got to wonder where all of those were. Maybe they've already won down in the neck of the woods by Brighton, or maybe people just aren't interested in that school of thought. I have to imagine the Earth Heroes both pretty happy about that, and also happy about only one Gravy to stare down. So pretty good place to be. Two Acilio is an interesting choice. I think Acilio is probably being slightly under-respected and probably does shine in a room with no Syndra. That's got to be a pretty good feeling. Two Pleiades. Not so sure about that. Hopefully you guys found some success on the deck, because I do think she's going to struggle into a room like this one just a little bit, but she's a blast nonetheless. Outside of that, good mix, good couple of one-offs. All of these make some amount of sense. Katsu, I think, is actually a little under-respected in the current format as well. Is kind of being overshadowed by Syndra more than anything else.
Yeah.
So happy to see one of those turning up and finding some play as well.
Yeah, you can do some awkward blocks, especially with Ira's arm piece.
Arcana Scar Rabs. Yeah. We do love some Edge of Autumn Katsu. The deck's very fun. If you've not had the chance to play it, I highly recommend it.
Let's see who made it into the top four, though. So we've got... So, now, you asked if we could have people's placings into the top 8. So,
I did, yeah.
There we go. So, for those people that are seeing the number in parentheses, we shall say, because we're a little bit more highbrow, that is where they placed in the top 8. So, Alexander Teague on Verdance, he's got 3 skirmishes. Anton Sidmaheus on Dash.io, he made it into a final in London the other day. I'm surprised he hasn't actually won an event. He's such a good player. Alex King on RKO, and Finley Shepherd is on Marlin.
Yeah, people are turning up on the Marlin, starting to figure out how to put that deck together. So Verdant Dash.io is a matchup we've talked about a lot over the last few weeks. I think it is evolving as players are changing their decks to be better into other matchups, but I find the matchup to be reasonably close and slightly Dash favored is my current view on it, because Verdance is just forced to play just enough 2 blocks for things to get a little bit awkward if you're playing Block Simulator, and the game is surprisingly difficult if you're not playing Block Simulator. So I think Dash is ever so slightly ahead. So I will probably take Anton, especially given they have the ability to choose to go first, which is definitely something Dash is interested in doing.
Okay.
On the other side of things, also congratulations to the bottom half of the bracket, by the way. Clearly had a fantastic quarterfinals to make yourselves known in the semifinals, which is great as well. Other side of things, RKO Marlin is not a matchup I have a ton of experience with, and that's okay. Let's use a little bit of brain power. Same kind of thought process in that RKO is a deck that is eager to block pretty consistently, but it doesn't tend to do so via a large amount of defense reactions, because it's leaning into cards like Fiddler's Green and Sigil of Solace to keep the life total high, so those Mocking Blows can do some nonsense when they fall behind, which does make me think they might struggle to shut down Marlin's Harpoons just a little bit, and maybe struggle to capitalize on those hands when they can inevitably not block particularly well. But at the same time, Overpower is not dominate. RKO is probably a hero that is better off blocking 2 cards, sending 2 cards, or blocking with 1 card and having a card stripped. So I can see this going either way, but something in my gut is telling me this should be a Marlin favored situation. But it's definitely a matchup I'd want to know more about. So,
okay, so you're going Dash.io Marlin final.
That's where we're at.
Okay, Goki. Is it? It is. Well done, Scott. So, what do you think of this one then?
This is similar to something we were just talking about with Marlin, where it's kind of tough to put a finger on the pulse, because she should be ahead if she is able to do the thing, I think, because she blocks surprisingly well and can just choose to play a turn, taking the turn off if she wants to. And if she's chaining together on hits or these Go Fish effects, it's pretty detrimental to be ripping these cards away from Dash. But she does have this problem where sometimes her hands don't work and she's reliant on gold to put things together. And so it wouldn't shock me necessarily if she'd floundered in a spot and fallen short, especially to a player like Anton, who again is choosing to go first here on DO, which is very impactful for the deck, especially in a matchup like this. My gut tells me that Marlin should be ahead. So I'm going to take Marlin, and I wouldn't be super shocked if it broke the other way.
Okie dokie. So to confirm who won, it was Anton taking his first.
Congrats, Anton.
Pro Quest. Well done, Anton. That's a long time coming. Commiserations, Finley. Flipping heck. What a performance with Marlin. Well done indeed.
She's starting to get around now. Couple of finals losses. I believe she's now won 2 Pro Quests as well across the globe. So people are figuring it out, and that's nice to see.
Yeah, we've got another video, so let's see this gold foil opening.
Beating trackers.
Love the system reset mat as well, really leaning into everything. Okay, we're seeing a lot of this season. Prize Galea, another one that is a bit skeptical for many. I actually think this is a pretty deliberate choice by LSS. I think some of the gold foils that have been added this season are very targeted towards Silver Age as a format. Okay. And I do think Prize Galea is a big part of Olympia in that format. And that might sound like it's not that big of a draw, but rare headpieces are not easy to come by in the Silver Age format. And blocking 3 on a headpiece is very impressive. And so it probably has a home there alongside these things like Refraction Bolters and the like that we're seeing turn up this season as gold foils. So not particularly impressive for CC. Hard to call it a hit if that's what you're looking for out of these gold foil envelopes, but a playable one that I expect to find a home in Silver Age as a format. So
yeah, Another quite a small event. We are off to Geek Retreat Sunderland. Only 11 players for this event. Quite surprised because the North normally turns out in number, especially when you've got Trinity Car Capital, Geek Retreat Sunderland, ProTech. Are all around that neck of the woods, which have had, pretty good turnouts, really. A little bit disappointing.
Worth noting, I believe this event was on the same day as York.
Okay.
So there was obviously a bit of a conflict there with players going to play Living Legend over at Gaming. So almost certainly played a factor in this being slightly smaller than it might have been otherwise, alongside being in week 4, which probably also plays a factor in it being smaller than it might have been otherwise.
Yep.
With that being said, 3 Gravy finally found some of them. Did wonder where all these Gravies have been in our last couple of events over the last few weeks. Still in the deck is very good. Obviously, Syndra is hard, but is the fun piece for some other amount of the format. 2 Arachne Marionette probably means this is Emad, Kashi, and someone else would be my best guess, because Kashi does love that deck, and I expect them to have been playing it here as well. Otherwise, a mix of what you might expect. Pleiades, Reinhardt, again, typically good into the Earth Heroes, so probably pretty sad to see the 1 Verdance. I do want to talk about KO just a little bit. I think people are figuring out now that decks like KO are very solid answers to Verdance, Thorn of the Rose, and might be slightly favoured into a deck like Syndra. So if we continue to see the fall off in Gravy that people are expecting us to see, people just aren't playing Gravy in these events right now, and if you think that's going to translate into the World Championship as well, I think KO might actually be a pretty good dark horse pick. I think he really does a number on Verdance. If you think she's the best deck, that matchup is very good for you, and I think Syndra is close and or favoured, so I think KO is a great pick. Hopefully going to see a little bit more of KO in the coming weeks, I would hope.
Okay. Hopefully, we'll see him shine at the World Championship. Right, but let's see who shined here in the top 4. So, Isaac Fogg on Gravy Bones. He's got 2 skirmishes. Paul Crane on KO. Yehors Zukovsky on Reinhardt. And Finn McDonald on Syndra.
Well, as I was just kind of alluding to with KO and Gravy, I do think that matchup is a bit rough. It's by no means unwinnable. Mandible Claw does a good job at taking out Sawbones, which is an important part of the equation. But Fearless Confrontation gets really awkward at times if you're trying to clear away allies like Chum. And sending your big attacks into smaller allies. Killing a Rigor Mortis is such a nightmare for KO. There's just like no efficient way to do it ever at all. And that causes hiccups and problems in this matchup. So you can definitely win it, especially with your Blood Rush Bellows and the like are kind to you. But I will take Isaac in the dark on that one, because I think Gravy's pretty far ahead most of the time. On the other side of the equation, it's actually surprisingly similar story. Reinhardt, of course, can just have those draws where Blood Rush Bellows puts the opponent in the ground and the game is very, very lopsided. But I think typically Syndra is ahead here. Reinhardt shines against decks that want to block, because you are denying the cards from the hand, make them not be able to convert those cards meaningfully. Syndra shines because she doesn't want to block. So if you're putting cards in her banished zone temporarily, they're going to be right back in her hand in a moment anyway, so who cares? So in the dark, I will take Finn on Syndra on that side of the equation.
Okay, so you are going Gravy Syndra final. Let's confirm that.
That's where we're at.
It was a KO Syndra final.
Okay. Very cool. Well, congratulations to Paul for nickel and diming through Gravy. That's not an easy one. As I was just saying, heading into this event, I think you are ahead on KO. Just about. I think it's closer than something like Verdance, where I think Verdance is the reason you play KO right now. But the fact you are even too good into Syndra, in my opinion, is a pretty big draw to just being multifaceted in the format. And for that reason, I'll take Paul on KO, which I assume is ahead here.
Okie dokie. So let's confirm. Did Paul Crane win? He did. Well done, Paul. Well done indeed. Fantastic win for KO. Gold foil was Refraction Bolters. So a nice pick.
It's not a bad one.
We're seeing that quite a bit as well. Maybe.
Brand new one this season. I think the Refraction Bolters is definitely a better hit because it's been universally playable in Dorinthia since it was printed in Welcome to Wraith. So it's hard not to complain. It's hard to complain, I should say, about that one. But it definitely got more applications in Silver Age because it's just, again, very potent, common level piece of equipment. So good one. Good one for Paul.
Nice. Well done, Paul. Let's go over to Langdon Games in Ipswich. Now, traditionally, sort of like, we're over the East Coast again. It is the brute territory. But, quite surprisingly, there's only 2 brutes here. I thought there was going to be a lot more. but 16 players nonetheless. Yeah, pretty good turnout.
Yeah, and about what you'd expect from a field here as well. Decent bit of diversity. Again, lack of gravy, but that's not super shocking on a 16-person event, truth be told. But Syndra and Verdant's top dogs makes a lot of sense. 2 copies of Kasai, interesting into this room. Will be good into Dash.io, will be good into Syndra typically, will be pretty rough into Verdant. So some matchups to dodge there for our Kasai players, no doubt. Otherwise, there's another selection of heroes we've seen finding some amount of success in this format because they have a reasonable matchup spread into 2 out of 3 of the big kind of linchpins of the format. And so in this case, if you happen to be picking decks like KO that were good into Syndra and Verdant, you picked the right side of the triangle, and it's a good place to be.
Nice. And let's see who made it in. So we've got Eric Severs, on Verdant. He's got 2 skirmishes. Matt Lovelace on Dory. Jack Bradbury on Syndra. He's got a skirmish under his belt. He's done really well. His name's popped up a couple of times now into the top 4, so he's having a really good Pro Quest. Ben Westmore on Verdant. Skirmish and an RTN for Ben.
Okay. I think Dorinthia is pretty hard for Verdant, honestly. Dorinthia is... Verdant is pretty hard for Dorinthia, I should say. Can't speak. That's not good. Typically, Warriors into Wizards, just, an equation that you are not happy to see yourself solving. Arcane damage kind of circumvents a lot of the things that Warriors do best. So I will take Verdant on that side of the things, especially the Earth Wizard, who has a pile of defense reactions, which is even worse for Dorinthia to handle. So not a great matchup there for Matt, and I'll be very impressed if they find a way through. On the other side of things, Verdant Syndra, I think, is probably the matchup of the format right now. I think obviously a lot of people are expecting this to dominate the World Championships and be the big question in the air. I think this matchup is incredibly close. I think as players are refining these deck lists, they're getting closer and closer to a coin flip in this matchup. It's very, very difficult to call it. It could break either way, which is exactly where you want your format to be, honestly. That's a pretty good way to see a matchup. Yeah. If I lean one way, I think I lean slightly towards Syndra currently. I do think she is ever so slightly ahead, but it is really, really close. So I'll take Jack in this case, and I won't at all be surprised if they didn't get there. So okay. we'll go with Eric and Jack.
Nice. Eric and Jack, Verdant and Syndra. It was exactly that. So,
yeah.
Once again, Jack has to face down Verdant.
Certainly does, and as much as I know Ben is a fantastic player, the equation here not going to change on player skill, as I don't know all that much about Eric or Jack personally. So I'll stick to my logic here and claim that Syndra is slightly ahead. Obviously, Syndra here would prefer to be able to leak the damage where possible. So die roll, a factor, sure, but I'll take Jack again in this matchup.
Did Jack finally get his win? He did indeed. Well done, Jack. Now, I can't tell you who, what the gold foil was because it hasn't arrived yet because Heo has let another store down. Very disappointing.
HEO, never change.
Yeah, considering we're now in week 4 of Pro Quest, it's just like, that's shocking. So I hope you get your gold foil soon, Jack. I really do. But yeah, that really needs to improve. Let's go to the last event of this week. 37 players. London has had another really, really good turnout. Like you were saying last week, you can play every day of the week, Fab, at an armory in London. It's showing. They've had such good turnouts. Yeah, absolutely fabulous. Right. I wasn't expecting 5 Syndra, being sort of like one of the sort of like top picks, especially sort of like in this meta. Yes, we know Verdance is going to be there. Yes, we know Syndra is going to be there, but Kasai's not really featured. Not in great numbers anyway.
No, I think Kasai 5 is a shock. I was not expecting to see this much Kasai being tied for most played deck is actually really intriguing to me. I'd be curious to see some of the names that brought this deck. Maybe that might be quite a telling of where they're leaning heading into the World Championship. But I do think she plays that game that we were talking about a few moments ago of picking a deck that is good into 2/3 of the triangle. I think Kasai is good into Syndra, and I think you can build Kasai to be good to defendable against Gravy. I think the matchup is very palatable when you're not that upset to see it. You are kind of upset to see Verdance, unfortunately. It's the difficult part of the trio for you, and in this case, those Kasai players are going to have to stare down 5 copies of Verdance as a result. So maybe not what they were hoping to see in this room, but the deck makes sense. Not surprised by the pick necessarily. Again, 3 KO players here. Similar story. They're going to be trying to avoid the 3 Gravies, which is a little easier than avoiding the 5 Verdants, but it depends on the winner's bracket and how things break. If those Gravies end up in the winner's bracket, it's obviously a bit of a nightmare. A little bit further down, 2 Marlin, 2 Puffin. Again, you can just tell that word is getting around about both of these decks and the palatability of them, the reasons to play them, because we're not just seeing one copy turning up at these, larger Pro Quests. It is not just one lone soul with a dream and ambition. It's like, okay, we understand now there is an appeal to these heroes and people are being converted and convinced they are the correct pick for their Pro Quest, which people that are playing in week 4, I mean, people aren't just here for fun. It's great that it's fun. I'm glad people are enjoying themselves. People are trying to qualify for Yokohama here. They're running out of opportunities, so they're not playing decks they think are bad. Yeah. Some of them are playing decks I think are bad, but that's a different problem entirely. Happy to see 1 Slippy here. That's lovely. It's been a while since we've seen that deck popping up. I'm not entirely sure why necessarily, but I'm happy to see it. Deck's very fun, and I do think people have forgotten how to play into it a little bit now because it's been so absent from the metagame. Otherwise, smattering of one-offs that you might expect. The Max is surprising. We did see Max win a PQ this season, but I'm not entirely sure what the draw is to a deck like Max over something like Puffin or Dash.io. So we'd be curious to hear that person's thoughts. Maybe they're just a Max aficionado. Otherwise, a lot of one-offs that make a lot of sense here.
Just living the dream, mate. He just wants to smash someone in the face with a Nitro Mechanoid. And why not?
Oh, for sure. I'm not judging anyone. I turned up to my first PQ this season on Pleiades, for Christ's sake. So, do whatever you want to do. Have some fun. Live the dream. But if there's more to it than a dream, I'd love to hear about it.
Now, I would love to go on to the next screen, but I can see in my preview that I have messed up. Okay, so now's the time to go and make a cup of tea while I go and fix this mistake.
We were doing so well. Oh, no.
Okay, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Thank you for your patience, and I have fixed a little boo-boo I made. Okie doke. Right, let's get into the top 4. We have Jack Warren on Dashio. We have James Earl on Dashio. Sam Thomas on Syndra. 2 skirmishes to his name. And Alex Teague once again makes it into a top 4 on Verdance. And he's got 3 skirmishes.
By the power of movie magic, we've found ourselves in a top 4 bracket. Now, I can't believe these 2 lovely players here have made me go all the way to the 3rd letter to figure out who's winning the Dash.io mirror. Frankly, that's illegal. However, my best guess is that it was Jack, because I don't know who was on the play and who was on the draw, which matters quite a lot in that matchup, truth be told. So we'll take Jack, and hopefully the rule of thumb continues to succeed, as it always does. On the other side, we've talked about Third and Syndra a fair bit so far. I don't think that's changed too much between these 2 players. I do think Syndra is ever so slightly ahead, so I'll take Sam Thomas on Syndra.
I can't believe you did not go for James Earl. As soon as I saw his name, I was just like, yes, Lord Vader, you have won. But we shall see.
We got rules around here. We got rules. We have to follow the rules.
You can follow your rules. I'm just like, yeah, he's got a cool name. And that's what's going through. So, right. There we go. James Earl, you bet against Lord Vader and he won. Okay. So how do you think about Dash versus Syndra?
Well, thankfully for the Vader fans out there, I do think this one is slightly favoured for Dash. It's close. Again, it's these aggro mirrors. Sometimes play draw really does have a pretty relevant factor. Sometimes finding the power turns has a relevant factor. Sometimes Dash draws 4 grenades and their life ends on the spot. So there are more things to consider in this equation. But if the game plays out as both players hope it does, typically Dash will find some goodies on top of their deck. The grenades will connect, and they'll win that aggressive race against Syndra, kind of relying on their armor to block out the Mask of Momentum triggers for the few turns this game is supposed to last. So I'll take James Earl here on Dash, and I won't be all too shocked if that wasn't the case.
Okay, I like that you have now shown the proper respect. Okay, but Sam,
for me to be wrong,
Sam
okay,
Thomas
great.
didn't show any respect, and he won it. So well done, Sam.
I see. No, nicely done, Sam. I think that's a hard matchup to get through. It's very difficult for Syndra to navigate a lot of the time because you're kind of putting your faith in someone else's hands. You are sometimes looking at your own hand and going, I'm not blocking. Let's see if it's 12 or 20. And that's not a particularly enjoyable place to be sometimes. So thankfully for Sam, I'm assuming it was 12 more often than not, which makes that matchup way more palatable. So congratulations and enjoy yourself in Yokohama.
I don't know what the goal for was. So if you can confirm that in the comments, that'd be ace. If you could do that, Sam, brilliant. Hopefully it's not a prize gallia or a bunker beard, but never mind.
And why would you say a thing like that?
You don't know, do you?
So it's going to be a coat of frost now. It's absolutely going to be a coat of frost now. You've brought that into existence.
Jason Rolfe, he showed what he won on Twitter. Showed a Twitter pic. He got a coat of frost. Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh no.
Never mind.
Jason.
Right.
It's more playable than the plume you own. So, you know.
Well, he's got to twist it for a bit of optimism. There we go.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, let's get into the maps. Let's confirm what we've seen. Peter won this week over in Gothenburg on the west coast. We saw him sort of like earlier with Florian. We've seen Verdance sort of like, it's just Earth Heroes. Earth Heroes, seem to be the pick at the minute.
I mean, it was all Wizards until Peter ruined it. So thanks, Peter.
Yeah, but he is dealing arcane, so he's kind of like, he's a bit wizardy.
God, no, that's like comparing a sorcerer to a wizard. That's illegal and different. Okay, no, we don't do that here. Wizard supremacy.
Let's go to Ireland. We're still waiting for the Irish games to kick off. That's next week and the week after. That's Dylan Thompson with Verdance right at the beginning of this season that we saw at Gamers World in Dublin. Let's go to Scotland. We've got Syndra and two more Verdances, sort of like the heroes of this sort of like entire season, really. But we have got some changes in the north of England, a whole slew of players. It's great to see, especially Betsy taking it down in Huddersfield. That was fantastic. I'm surprised sort of like we haven't sort of like seen a deck tech. I haven't seen a deck tech for that. Would have been nice if maybe sort of like we maybe people would have dabbled in it. We've seen a bit more. Let's go into the middle of England, the melting pot of the Midlands. Syndra's taken the fair share of victories here, but a good spread of heroes nonetheless. And then we go down south and another good spread of heroes. So even though, globally, sort of like we see Syndra, Verdance, Gravy winning the lion's share, is certainly not in the UK. Yes, she's had her share of games. She's won her share of tournaments, but it is not completely, dominated.
No, I think honestly the UK metagame is pretty accurately representing the global metagame currently, apart from the Betsy, which is probably a UK exclusive thing, I imagine. But Verdance and Syndra are winning like 20% of their Pro Quests, which, I mean, we're seeing about the same thing here. So, yeah, it's pretty accurate mirror, I think, of what's happening worldwide. Yeah,
it'll be nice to see sort of like next week how Dice and Destiny goes, because sort of like the couple of TCG guys have obviously sort of like, push that Puffin deck. We've seen Puffin take a few more, go in higher numbers to events. And then we've seen Finley Shepherd take Marlin, and he's sort of like based down there. Maybe we're going to see more Marlin players next week down in Dice and Destiny as well. That'll be quite interesting. But let's see the numbers for the global results. So Verdance and Syndra have had a bit of a switch, because Syndra to me is the deck that basically most people are probably going to go, I want to win one, I want to have a shot. The cards are pretty easy to pick up, and she took the lion's share last week. I'm actually quite surprised Verdance is here, because it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder deck to pilot.
Verdance is very good. I think Verdance is the biggest beneficiary of a fall off in Gravy Bones, which we've definitely been seeing in the UK at least over the last few weeks. The deck is obviously clearly still very good. It is finding success worldwide. It's still a big 3 deck, but it is deck 3, I think, for a lot of people right now, and that makes Verdance a lot more palatable. But I'll be honest, I look at this graph, and I would be very happy with a classic constructed format that looks like this. I understand it's not for everybody. I think there are fair arguments to be made that the format is a little bit stale. Stale is a different thing entirely because, Super Slam didn't necessarily have the biggest impact in terms of shaking things up or introducing a hero to the top of this metagame. But this is pretty intrinsically balanced to me. Like, this doesn't look problematic in any way. There is multiple people finding success on a variety of different heroes. We have a pretty clear and chiseled big three. I think these formats lend themselves to very exciting world championships. There are expectations going in, and there are plenty of curveballs that make sense to attack those expectations. This is way more appealing to me than Chain bound by Shadow. Mm-hmm. So I'll take this any day of the week. I'm actually very happy to see this metagame going into Worlds personally. A little less so Living Legend, but there is no established metagame in Living Legend. We're all guessing. Yeah. I'm pretty happy with this, and hopefully most people are as well. Although I do understand if they're perhaps a little bit bored of playing into Verdant, Syndra, and Gravy. It's been that way for a while. I think that's a valid complaint. But in terms of balance, this one won't be getting any complaints from me. I'm pretty happy about this.
Okay, fair enough. Let's see how the Living Legend sort of like leaderboard has panned out for week 4. Kano picked up 7 wins and he's itchingly close. He's so close to going. Do you think he will get over the line? Obviously, he needs 28 points. Do you think he's going to get 28? So that's 9 wins. So he's got to do better. He's got to do 10 wins.
The thing is, it's not better. He's got 2 weeks to do it.
Oh right. Yeah.
If he averages 5 wins a week, he will not be legal for Worlds. And the fact that is down to the wire, maybe the weekend before, is frankly crazy. Because although we don't think Kano is a top 3 deck in this current format, clearly it's good enough to be winning 7 Pro Quests this week. Mm-hmm. So it is a meaningful deck. It's a meaningful choice. It's a lot of sideboard slots being dedicated by a lot of people. And you'll find very quickly that, hey, maybe the Syndra matchup for Verdance is really close right now, but if either hero doesn't have to, well, in Verdance's case especially, doesn't have to give up sideboard slots for extra Arcane Barrier or extra tools for Kano, or maybe there's extra tools for Syndra, maybe there's extra tools for Verdance, maybe the Gravy matchup is more palatable. Who knows? These are things that all have to be considered very much in the last minute if Kano isn't a part of this equation. And that's exciting for me because I'm not playing the World Championship. It's terrifying and heinously problematic for you if you are, because I've been on that side of the equation as well, especially given where we are with the Living Legend right now as well. So a lot of uncertainty about Kano. I think he's going to do it. I don't think he's going to be legal for Worlds. I reckon he clears the bar and gets there. But it's going to be an interesting race to follow, that's for sure.
See, my only concern is we see in the UK, right at the beginning, sort of like of the Pro Quest, we have an abundance of events. And if I can only look at our events and just go, okay, I'm assuming, maybe rightly, maybe wrongly, that the amount of events is going to tail off. So we might... There might only be a handful of events going on, sort of like on, the last week just before Wells, and it's just like... Is he? I mean, he's so squeakily close.
There is one more factor to consider there as well. We have the calling Sydney this weekend.
Okay.
Which means there is also a calling that he could theoretically win. And I think that might be the best case scenario for everyone. I think if Kano somehow takes down the calling in Sydney, I can't remember what callings are worth these days, but if he's not, I don't believe he'd be gone, but I think he would be so close that it's basically impossible for him to miss at that point in time from winning a calling. And so people would get the largest amount of time possible to process the format without Kano. I think if it ends up being a last minute deal, it's a bit more sketchy. So someone do everyone a favor. Get yourself out there over to Australia. Take care of business for me and win this event on Kano. I would appreciate it. But this is going to be exciting if you're a spectator. It's going to make for a great viewing experience. It's just going to be rather stressful if you're the one having to figure it all out.
Yeah, especially if you're a Kano player going to Worlds. So Kano and KO have won exactly the same amount of points this season. 86 points they've both won, which is quite interesting. Mm-hmm. And Florian is only 4 points behind. He's done 82 points. So it's been outstanding. Our Fi player, whoever you are, well done for putting some points on the board for Fi. He's gone up by one win.
Exactly who that was. The single win belongs to Ellie Bird. who managed to take down a Pro Quest on Fi. Known Searing Ember Blade enjoyer. So congratulations to you, Ellie. Managed to qualify for Yokohama on the Draconic Ninja. Made me very happy to see.
No, well done. Well done indeed. I didn't think that he was going to move. I was just like, he's going to do a Bravo. Now, some people might be going, did I look at the results right? Did Bravo win so many events that he's LL'd and nobody said anything? No, he's still on 769 points. But don't worry, he'll be back into the top 5 when all these basically bugger off and make it into the hallowed halls. So we'll be back soon. But Prism makes it into the top 5. Yeah, it's nice to see her again. She's a quality deck, and she's been picking up results solidly since she came out in Dusk Till Dawn. It seems really weird that she hasn't done it because she seemed quite dominant for quite a while.
It's easy to forget she did need a second weapon to be printed before she was, playable, because the first time round she was a bit garbage until she was given a Luminaris 3.0. Now, if you're a Prism player, the single worst thing that could happen to you right now is for Kano to Living Legends, because you don't want that. It is the most free matchup you could possibly ask for. So the Prism players are going to be crossing their fingers that Kano is still around. And we do miss you, Bravo. Hopefully you'll come back and visit sometime soon.
Yeah, he's still got 2 weeks to pick a win up. Can he do a fire and pick a win up? So yeah, somebody take him a win.
Look, if Betsy can do it, like anybody can do it. I'm sorry, the bar is on the floor. It's anything's possible this Pro Quest season.
Let's see what events are left for the UK and Ireland. Dice Cup in Nottingham, that's a Living Legend event. Dice and Destiny Canterbury, Lion's Heart Bookshop in Woking, and if you're in Ireland, get to Puka Puka in Derry, because you've only had one event and you deserve more. Dark Star Gaming in Plymouth to finish out the Sunday, and then we've got going into the last week for Toys and Games of Worcester, so you can play Scott. Cool Cards in Sweden, and the Gathering in Limerick as well. That finishes out sort of like our Pro Quest, sort of like Meta Report coverage. Like I said, there is like no hope of me getting sort of like the Meta Report out for next week. It's just like with the move, I'm literally stripping this room at the weekend and then basically trying to reassemble it from Tuesday onwards. So it is. And
now watch, folks, because when Baz hears that I win Toys and Games in Worcester, there's no chance he doesn't put out an episode. So I look forward to getting a message late on Thursday night being like, hey, come on then, I've built a room. Let's make it happen. And I'll have to tell Baz that probably not, because I'll be walking back from Worcester and walking straight onto a plane to Philadelphia. So I'm not going to have very much time to help put anything together either. But if you have to miss out on the show, that's fine. Pay attention. I'm sure we can get the results out to you, loyal viewers, one way or the other. Mostly because I'll be screaming about it if I'm lucky enough to actually not suck this season. So stay tuned. That'd be great.
Mate, you're going to have so many fans. They're all going to be, come on, Scott. We want Baz to get that show out.
I mean, it'd be quite the story, wouldn't it? No episode next week, and it turns up randomly on a Thursday night, and you already know what happened down in Worcester because there's only one reason there's a show. So if you want a show from Baz next week, and you're in Worcester, I mean, you know what's up. That's all I'm saying.
So send me the results, and I can put them in the tracker one way or the other. Okay. Scott.
Even if I didn't, it's fine.
Scott, thank you so much. Dude, you're tirelessly working for Fab. We're so thankful that you're taking part. So thankful for sort of like all the gaming groups that are allowing Scott to be the fly on the wall, and getting this invaluable knowledge for what he is going to impart upon the world when it kicks off in Philadelphia in a couple of weeks' time. So brilliant, well done.
Very much appreciate it. I will say real quickly, a lot of people don't necessarily realize this, but normally I'm a play-by-play caster for Flesh and Blood. It's where I've kind of cut my chops. I'm on color commentary, so the analyst role for World Championships. So I'm terrified, which is mostly why I've been spending so much time studying in the corner and being a fly on the wall and trying to make sure I understand. I know what's what. So huge thank you to the people that have been helping me with that, because I you know what, it would be the worst time to be bad at my job at the first World Championship I ever get to cast, so I'm pretty eager to not do that, honestly. So every extra bit of help really has gone a long way. So if you were in this episode, you want a PQ on something cool, you found out something cool, you just want to share some information, my inbox is always open. Feel free to shoot me a message. I'm never going to yell at you for doing that, as long as it's not 4 a.m. Maybe don't do that. But I would appreciate any and all input, things you found, knowledge you have, because it will make a better show. Hopefully, well, at least as good a show as it can be with me behind the desk anyway. So we'll do our best.
Mate, you're going to smash it. I know you're going to smash it. I know how much you've put into this, how much it means to you. You're going to be fantastic. You're going to be really, really good.
Try my best.
Erica, thank you so much for the Swedish meta. I look forward to next week to get cool cards. Cole, Lumpy, Ruin, Adam Hale, Izet Tinkerer. Top job, guys. Well done. Thank you so much. If you want to take part in a Patreon, it's down there. Get your discounts, 10% off by the same tokens. Thistle Tavern singles and grading, all 10% off. Go check out the link. It's in the description below. If you can't do that, subscribe. Subscribe to the channel. You know, it spreads the word. Give it a like. That pumps the YouTube algorithm. And say hi. You know, that's always a nice thing. Until next time, thank you for watching. And hopefully the next tale I'll be telling is about you. Until then, bye-bye.